The night sky over Karachi was glowing with city lights, but inside the rooftop cafe Azure, it was even brighter. The clinking of glasses, soft music, and laughter filled the air. It was a gathering of the rich, sons of industrialists, politicians, and businessmen who thought the world belonged to them. At the center of it all sat Arman Malik, a man of confidence and charisma. His perfectly tailored suit, his sharp jawline, and the charm in his voice made him the star of every room. For most people, he was a dream, handsome, wealthy, untouchable. But beneath the surface, Arman was restless. Money had given him everything, except meaning. That night, as his friends surrounded him, the conversation took a turn no one expected. Seima, his closest friend and sometimes rival, leaned forward with a mischievous grin. Arman, tell me something. Do you actually believe in love? Arman smirked, swirling the glass in his hand. Love? Seima, love is nothing but an illusion. Give someone comfort, security, luxury, and they'll call it love. Laughter echoed around the table, but Seima wasn't done. So you think money can buy anyone's heart? Of course, Arman replied smoothly. For some, it's diamonds. For others, it's promises. But at the end of the day, everyone has a price. Seima's smile grew sharper. He tapped the table. Fine then. Let's test your theory. There's a girl I know, someone completely different from your so-called world. Arman raised an eyebrow, curious. And who might that be? Her name is Mihak, Seima said, his voice softer now. She's different. No designer clothes, no fake lashes, no pretentious smile. She works as a teacher in a small school. Simple, kind-hearted, but yes, she's obese. People often overlook her, laugh behind her back. She's nothing like the women who orbit around you. The laughter died down. Everyone turned to look at Arman. For a moment, he stayed quiet, studying Seima's expression. Then, with a slow, confident smile, he leaned forward. Seima, tum muj underestimate kar rohi ho. Main Arman Malik hoon. Agar main chahun to junior ki sapse mushkil ladki pi mujh pierre khan lajeji. Seima crossed his arms. So you're saying, you can make her fall in love with you? Arman raised his glass, his pride glowing in his eyes. Not just fall in love. She'll marry me. Gasps and murmurs spread across the table. One of the boys whispered, Arman, this is not just a game. She's an innocent girl. But Arman's ego had already spoken. For him, it wasn't about Mihak, it was about proving a point. Seima shook his head. You don't know her heart. She isn't like the girls you've dated. She values love, not money. Arman chuckled. We'll see, Seima. Challenge accepted. The group erupted into noise, some cheering Arman, some shaking their heads in disbelief. But Seima's eyes darkened. Deep inside, he hoped that maybe this game would finally teach Arman the difference between pride and love. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, in a modest neighborhood, Mihak Fatima sat on her small balcony, reading a book under the yellow streetlight. The sounds of children playing cricket in the street filled the air. Mihak was not the kind of girl magazines celebrated. She was overweight, often ignored, sometimes ridiculed, but her heart was soft, like poetry written on fragile paper. She looked at the sky and whispered to herself, somewhere out there, maybe there's someone who'll see me for who I am, not what I look like. Little did she know, her wish was about to come true, though not in the way she imagined. Because at that very moment, Arman Malik had already decided to step into her world. Not with sincerity, but with a bet. And this bet would change both their lives forever. The morning sun spilled golden light over Karachi. While the world rushed through its routine, Arman Malik sat in the backseat of his luxury black BMW, scrolling through his phone. His mind wasn't on business today, it was on the challenge he had accepted the night before. Mihak Fatima, he murmured, repeating her name as if trying to taste it. Seima sat beside him, unusually quiet. For years, he had watched Arman play games with hearts. But this time, something inside him felt uneasy. Arman noticed his silence. Why so serious, Seima? Regretting the challenge. Seima looked at him firmly. Arman, I didn't give you her name for entertainment. She's a genuine person. If you break her heart, he paused, his voice tightening. You'll regret it more than she ever will. Armin smirked. Relax, Dust. I'm not cruel. I'll win her heart, maybe even give her a good life. What's so wrong in that? Seymour shook his head but stayed quiet. He knew arguing with Armin's ego was like throwing stones into the ocean. Later that afternoon, Armin's sleek car stopped near a small government school tucked inside a narrow street. Children's laughter echoed through the walls, and a group of students were leaving for home, holding notebooks against their chests. Armin's eyes scanned the crowd. And then, he saw her. Mihak. She was standing near the school gate, helping a little girl tie her shoelaces. Her dupatta was slipping, her hair tied in a loose braid, a little sweat on her forehead from the scorching sun. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't trying to be. But the way she knelt down, speaking so softly to the child, her eyes filled with care, it was something Armin had rarely seen. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Seymour watched him closely. So, that's Mihak. Armin adjusted his sunglasses to hide the flicker of surprise in his eyes. Ordinary. His tone was casual, but his gaze lingered a second too long. Mihak stood up, dusting her clothes, and waved goodbye to the children. Then she picked up her bag and started walking towards the bus stop. She didn't notice the luxury car parked nearby or the man whose pride was tied to her name. Armin leaned back in his seat. Interesting. The next day, fate created the first crossing of their paths. Mihak was waiting at the bus stop, her dupatta shielding her face from the heat. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over her. She looked up, and there he was. Armin Malik. But unlike his usual arrogant self, he wore a disarming smile. Excuse me, is this the stop for Route 11? Mihak blinked, a little startled. Yes, but the bus comes late. You might have to wait. Armin chuckled softly, as if amused by the idea of himself waiting for a bus. But he didn't reveal who he was. Instead, he nodded. Then I'll wait. They stood side by side in silence. Around them, the street bustled with vendors, rickshaws, and honking cars. Mihak clutched her bag nervously. She wasn't used to strangers starting conversations, especially men with such sharp features and expensive perfume. After a moment, Armin spoke again. You're a teacher, right? I saw you yesterday near the school. Mihak looked at him, surprised. Yes, but how do you? I was passing by, Armin said quickly, his lie smooth. You seemed kind. For a second, Mihak's cheeks warmed. Compliments were rare in her world. She quickly looked away, telling herself not to overthink. The bus arrived, crowded as always. Mihak stepped forward, struggling to climb inside. To her surprise, Armin gently held her bag so she wouldn't lose balance. Careful, he said softly. For the first time, Mihak truly looked into his eyes. And something she couldn't name, passed between them. That evening, as Armin returned home, his friends gathered again. One of them laughed. So, Mr. Malik, did the teacher fall for your charm already? Armin smirked, hiding the strange tug he felt inside. Not yet. But soon. Seymour watched him quietly. He could see it, the game had started. But what Armin didn't realize was that this wasn't just about winning a bet. Because somewhere in his heart, something had already begun to change. And somewhere in Mihak's simple world, a storm was about to enter. The following days unfolded like hidden threads weaving a pattern. For Mihak, life had always been predictable. Wake up early, cook breakfast for her Ami, rush to school, teach her students, and then return home by bus. There was comfort in routine, even though loneliness often whispered in the corners of her heart. But suddenly, her routine wasn't the same anymore. Because at the bus stop, she wasn't alone. Every morning, Armin was there. Leaning casually against a tree, sometimes pretending to read a newspaper, sometimes sipping tea from the Daba stall nearby. Always smiling when their eyes met. Suba Bakhaya, teacher Sahiba, he would say in a playful tone. Mihak would frown slightly. Why do you call me that? Because that's who you are, Armin replied, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. And besides, it suits you. She would shake her head, trying not to smile. But somewhere deep inside, her heart felt lighter. One particular morning, the bus was more crowded than usual. Mihak struggled to find space, and before she could protest, Arman offered his seat. "You sit," he insisted. "But what about you?" Mihak asked, concerned. Arman leaned against the pole, flashing his charming smile. "I'm used to standing. Besides, I don't think your students would forgive me if their teacher fainted in this heat." His words made her laugh softly, a laugh so pure that it caught him off guard. For a moment, he forgot this was supposed to be a game. That evening, Mihak sat with her Ami in their small living room. Ami was stitching clothes for a neighbor while Mihak prepared tea. Her mother glanced at her. "You seem different these days. Smiles Ayada arti high chair pa." Mihak's hands paused. "Nahi Ami, bas school ki bachianit ni pyarihain, unkai bartin yadati retihain." But Ami wasn't convinced. A mother always knows. Meanwhile, across the city, Arman sat in his luxurious penthouse. His friends were teasing him again. "So, Romeo, kitna progress hua? Did the teacher Sahiba start falling for you?" Arman smirked, sipping his coffee. "Let's just say, the game is going smoothly." But inside, he was unsettled. He remembered the way Mihak had laughed today, the innocence in her eyes. It wasn't like the shallow flattery he was used to. Seima, who had been silent all along, finally spoke. "Arman, just remember, you're not playing with numbers here. You're playing with someone's heart. Don't forget that." Arman shrugged, forcing a smile. "Relax, Seima. Main janta hun main kia ka raha hun." But when he looked out of the window, the city lights didn't comfort him tonight. Instead, Mihak's laughter echoed in his mind, unsettling him in ways he couldn't explain. Days passed, and with each encounter, the distance between them shrank. One rainy afternoon, the bus broke down halfway. Passengers groaned, some ran for rickshaws. Mihak looked lost, clutching her bag under the drizzle. And suddenly, Arman's car pulled up. "Come on, I'll drop you," he said, rolling down the window. Mihak hesitated. "No. I don't want to trouble you." "Trouble?" Arman laughed lightly. "Aap muj bulgai? Humrozek hai bus ka intezar kart hain. Ab to safardostana ho gaya hai." Her heart hesitated, but the rain was unforgiving. She finally nodded. Inside the car, silence filled the space. Mihak traced the raindrops on the window, feeling strangely nervous. Arman glanced at her and spoke softly, "You know, when you smile, it changes everything." Her breath caught. She turned to him, unsure if she had heard right. Before she could respond, the car stopped near her lane. "Shukriya," she whispered, stepping out quickly, her cheeks burning. Arman watched her disappear into the narrow street. For the first time in years, his heart wasn't thinking about victory, or pride, or the bet. It was thinking about her. But destiny wasn't just weaving threads of love. It was also setting the stage for heartbreak. Because in her small home, Mihak's Ami had begun noticing. And in Arman's circle, Seima's warnings were growing stronger. The story had just begun, but shadows were already waiting at the edges. The days rolled forward, like pages turning in a diary Mihak didn't know she was writing. Every morning, she found herself secretly looking for that tall figure near the bus stop. And every time she saw him, leaning casually against the tree, a faint smile playing on his lips, her heart would beat just a little faster. "Suba Bakhaya, teacher Sahiba," Arman would greet, as if the words had become his ritual. Mihak would shake her head, smiling despite herself. "You'll never stop calling me that, will you?" "No," he replied with a soft chuckle. "Because it reminds me who you are. Someone who teaches, not just children, but maybe even people like me." Mihak tilted her head, curious. "People like you?" Arman looked away, hiding the truth in his eyes. "Yes. People who don't know much about life." For a second, silence wrapped around them. Mihak didn't know why, but there was something in his tone that felt deeper than words. One Sunday afternoon, a small school function was held. Parents, neighbors, and students filled the courtyard with laughter and chatter. Children performed skits, recited poems, and sang songs off-key but with full hearts. Mihak, in her simple maroon dress and japata, walked across the stage, adjusting the microphone. Her presence wasn't glamorous, but there was something magnetic about her, her care for the children, the warmth in her smile. From the crowd, Armin watched silently. No one knew who he was, just a stranger blending in. But his eyes never left her. During a little girl's recitation, Mihak stood beside the child, encouraging her with gentle nods. That kindness, that patience, it was like watching light in human form. Armin's chest tightened. He had come here because of a bet. But sitting in that courtyard, he realized this wasn't a game anymore. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, Mihak was carrying boxes of props back to the staff room. She struggled with one heavy carton. "Need help?" a familiar voice said. She looked up. Armin stood there, smiling, his sleeves rolled up. "Array, what are you doing here?" she asked, startled. He shrugged casually. "I was passing by. Thought I'd see how teacher Sahiba handles the stage." Her lips curved into a shy smile. "You're impossible." Together they carried the box inside. For the first time, they laughed together, not as strangers at a bus stop, but as two people sharing a moment that felt strangely natural. That evening, Mihak wrote in her small diary, something she rarely did. "Why does his presence feel so different? He talks to me like I matter. As if my words, my smile, my existence, actually mean something." She closed the diary quickly, embarrassed of her own thoughts. But her heart whispered a truth she couldn't deny: something was changing. Meanwhile, in Armin's lavish apartment, the atmosphere was different. His friends gathered again, eager for updates. "So, Armin, how's the mission going? Did she fall yet?" Armin gave a casual smile, hiding the storm inside. "Soon. Very soon." They laughed, clapping his back. But Seima, sitting quietly in the corner, studied Armin's face. He saw it, the way Armin's eyes didn't match his words anymore. After the group left, Seima confronted him. "Armin, tell me honestly, is this still about the bet? Or is it becoming something else?" Armin's jaw tightened. "Seima, don't start again." "You can fool them, Armin," Seima said softly, "but not me. I've known you since childhood. Your heart is changing, and you're scared to admit it." Armin didn't answer. He turned away, staring at the city lights through his window. And for the first time in years, the great Armin Malik didn't know what he truly wanted. Back in her modest home, Mihak's Ami noticed her daughter humming while cooking. "Bohat kush lag rahi hoage kal, Mihak. Kia bat hai." Mihak smiled faintly, shaking her head. "Nahi Ami, bas school kabakhan ki kushian lagtihain." But Ami's eyes narrowed knowingly. A mother always senses the truth her child tries to hide. That night, as the city slept, two very different hearts lay awake. One was scared of losing herself in a dream she wasn't sure she deserved. The other was scared of admitting that a bet had turned into something real. And destiny. It was smiling silently, waiting to reveal its next twist. The next week, life felt strangely lighter for Mihak. Her mornings weren't just mornings anymore, they carried an unspoken excitement. The sound of children in the street, the rattle of buses, the aroma of her Ami's chai, all these small things now had a glow around them. Because she knew, at the bus stop, he would be waiting. That morning, as she adjusted her japata and stepped outside, her reflection in the mirror caught her eye. For the first time in years, she lingered in front of it. Her heart whispered, "Why do I suddenly care how I look?" At the stop, Armin was already there, sipping tea from a small paper cup. "You're late today, teacher Sahiba," he teased. Mihak frowned, checking her watch. "I'm exactly on time." Armin smiled. "When someone waits for you, every minute feels like an hour." Mihak's cheeks flushed. She looked away quickly, pretending to watch the approaching bus. But inside, something had already stirred. That evening, Armin did something unexpected. Instead of waiting at the stop, he followed the bus discreetly in his car until Mihak reached her home. From a distance, he watched her climb the stairs of her modest house, greet her Ami, and disappear inside. The little balcony had a potted plant and a string of fairy lights that flickered faintly. It was simple, almost fragile, but it felt warmer than his penthouse ever had. Seima's voice echoed in his mind, You're playing with someone's heart. But Armin pushed the thought away. No, he whispered to himself. I'm not playing anymore. The following day, something unusual happened. The bus never came. A strike had brought the city to a standstill. People were restless, arguing with rickshaw drivers demanding double fares. Mihak stood confused, clutching her bag. Just then, Armin's car rolled up, his window sliding down. Need a ride? He asked casually. Mihak hesitated. No. I'll manage. Manage? He raised an eyebrow. How? Will you walk 10 kilometers? She bit her lip, unsure. Armin leaned closer. Look, Teacher Sahiba, main apko force nahi kar raha. But at least let me be your friend. Friends help each other, right? The word friend felt safe. She finally nodded and slipped into the passenger seat. The drive was quiet at first. The city outside was chaotic, protests, shuttered shops, crowds filling the streets. Inside the car, though, it felt like another world. Armin glanced at her, breaking the silence. You know, you're not like anyone I've met. Mihak looked at him, startled. What do you mean? He shrugged lightly. Every girl I know talks about brands, parties, vacations. You talk about your students, your Ami, the rain. It's different. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. Her heart raced, her hands tightened around her bag. But deep inside, his words left a mark she couldn't erase. That evening, she sat in her room, unable to focus on anything. She opened her diary again and wrote, He sees me differently. Or maybe I just want to believe he does. Is this foolishness? Or could this be real? She closed the diary, pressing it to her chest, afraid of her own hopes. Meanwhile, in Armin's world, things were getting complicated. His friends called him over for a game of cards. Laughter filled the room, but when someone casually asked, So Armin, how's the teacher? Bet jeetni whale ho na. Armin froze. For the first time, the word bet felt like poison in his ears. He forced a laugh to hide his discomfort, but Seema saw it clearly. Later, when they were alone, Seema asked softly, Armin, are you still in this for the bet? Armin looked away, conflicted. I don't know anymore. Seema placed a hand on his shoulder. Be honest, with yourself, and with her. Don't wait until it's too late. The next day at school, Mihak's students were rehearsing for a play. One little boy struggled with his lines and began to cry. Mihak knelt down, wiped his tears, and encouraged him gently. Armin stood at the doorway, unnoticed, watching her. He had come to surprise her, but instead, he found himself surprised. Her patience, her kindness, her love for those children, it shook him. For the first time in years, he realized, money couldn't buy this. As the day ended, Armin offered her a ride home again. This time, she didn't resist. While driving, he glanced at her and said quietly, You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were ordinary. But the truth is, you're extraordinary. Her breath caught. She turned to him, trying to read his eyes. Was he serious? Or was this just charm? Before she could speak, the car stopped in front of her home. Good night, Teacher Sahiba, Armin said with a smile, masking the storm in his heart. Mihak stepped out slowly, her mind spinning. His words lingered like music she couldn't forget. But in the shadows of her heart, fear whispered, what if it's all too good to be true? And in the shadows of Armin's world, the cruel truth waited, the truth of the bet. A truth that, sooner or later, would break everything. The morning air was fresh, carrying the faint smell of rain from the night before. Mihak walked to the bus stop, her dupatta fluttering in the breeze. She was nervous, though she wouldn't admit why. Her heart knew what her mind refused to say, she wanted to see him. And there he was. Armin Malik, leaning against his car this time, not the tree. A small smile curved his lips as he caught her eye. Good morning, Teacher Sahiba, he greeted, his voice unusually gentle. Mihak hesitated. You brought the car again. He shrugged. The buses are too crowded. Why should you suffer when I can drop you comfortably? She bit her lip, unsure. I don't want people to misunderstand. Armin looked directly at her. Let them. Why should we live by their gossip? Her breath caught at his boldness. For the first time, she got into his car without protesting. The drive that day felt different. Neither of them spoke much, but the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, alive, almost sacred. At a traffic signal, a flower seller came by, holding roses to the window. Without thinking, Arman bought one and handed it to her. Mihak blinked, surprised. Yeah, for me. He smiled faintly. Yes. But only because it matches your smile. Her fingers trembled as she accepted it. She turned her face to the window quickly, afraid he might see the tears welling in her eyes. No one had ever given her a rose before. Not once in her life. That night, she placed the flower carefully between the pages of her diary, like a secret too precious to lose. But while her world was blooming, shadows were gathering elsewhere. At a dinner gathering, Arman's friends brought up the topic again. So, Malik, one of them smirked, how's the little bet coming along? Did the teacher fall for you yet? Arman's jaw clenched. Don't call her that. The room went silent. It was the first time he had reacted so sharply. Seima noticed, his eyes narrowing. Arman, this is exactly what I was warning you about. You're not just pretending anymore. You're falling. Arman stood, grabbing his coat. I don't owe anyone an explanation. But as he walked out of the room, his own words echoed back at him. Am I really falling? The next day, at school, Mihak found herself distracted during class. Her students giggled at her absent-mindedness. Miss, ap haste hu or p ochi lagtihain, one of the girls said innocently. Mihak laughed softly, but her cheeks burned. She knew who had put that smile on her face. After class, she went to the staff room, only to hear two fellow teachers whispering. Have you noticed? Mihak's been glowing lately. Yes, and I saw her get out of a fancy car yesterday. Rich men don't look at girls like her without a reason. The words stung like glass cutting her heart. Mihak quickly walked away, pretending she hadn't heard. But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, as Arman came to pick her up, she was quieter than usual. Everything okay, Teacher Sahiba? He asked gently. She forced a smile. Yes, just a little tired. But Arman could sense it. He wanted to ask more, but he didn't push. Instead, he spoke softly, you don't have to hide from me. If something hurts you, you can tell me. For a moment, she almost told him about the whispers, the fear, the doubts. But then she stopped herself. What if he laughs? What if I mean nothing to him? So she stayed silent, holding her pain inside. That night, Mihak sat by her window, staring at the city lights. She clutched her diary and wrote, I don't know what's happening to me. When he smiles, I forget the world. When he looks at me, I feel special. But the world doesn't see me like that. They say men like him can never truly love women like me. Am I fooling myself? Or is my heart finally telling the truth? Tears blurred the ink on the page. She pressed the diary shut, hugging it to her chest as if it could protect her from her own fears. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Arman sat alone, swirling a glass of water he hadn't touched. His phone buzzed with messages from friends, mocking him about the bet. He threw the phone aside in anger. This isn't a game anymore, he muttered. For the first time, the great Arman Malik felt powerless. Because for the first time, he wasn't chasing victory. He was chasing love. But fate is cruel. While Arman's heart was softening and Mihak's heart was trembling, the world around them was watching. Whispers, doubts, pride, and secrets were slowly preparing to strike. Neither of them knew that soon, the truth of the bet would come closer to the surface. And when it did, nothing would be the same again. The city was alive with its usual chaos, horns blaring, vendors shouting, people rushing. But for Mihak, the world seemed quieter these days. Quieter because her heart had begun to beat in rhythm with someone else's presence. That evening, Arman insisted on taking her for tea at a small roadside cafe instead of driving her straight home. It's not always about five-star hotels, Teacher Sahiba, he said with a grin. Sometimes, the best tea is found in chipped cups on a broken table. Mihak laughed softly, shaking her head. I never imagined someone like you sitting here. Someone like me, he raised an eyebrow. You know, she hesitated. Rich, polished, used to the high life. Armin leaned closer, his eyes steady on hers. And what if I told you I'm tired of that life? That maybe I'd rather sit here with you than in any 7-star restaurant. Her heart stumbled in her chest. She looked away quickly, but her lips betrayed her with a small smile. The tea arrived. They sipped quietly, watching the rain drizzle on the dusty road. Do you always take care of your students like that? Armin asked after a pause. Mihak nodded. They're not just students to me. Some of them, they don't even get love at home. If I can give them even a little, it means the world to me. There was such sincerity in her voice that Armin couldn't look away. For the first time, he realized, she wasn't teaching for a salary. She was teaching out of love. And that love was beginning to wrap around him, too. Later, when he dropped her home, Mihak hesitated at the gate. Armin, she finally spoke, her voice soft. Yes. You don't have to do all this for me. I mean, picking me up, dropping me, buying roses. I don't want to be a burden. Armin's heart twisted. He wanted to tell her the truth, that she wasn't a burden, that she had already become the only weight he wanted to carry. But the words froze in his throat. Instead, he smiled faintly. If this is a burden, then it's one I'd happily carry forever. Her breath caught. For a moment, she let herself believe him. But fate had other plans. The very next day, as Mihak entered the school, she overheard two teachers again. I saw her with him yesterday, sitting in a cafe. Hon, and in his car the day before. These rich men, they play for a while and then move on. Poor girl doesn't even know she's being fooled. Mihak's hands froze on her dupatta. Her throat tightened. She wanted to shout, to defend him, to defend them. But fear crept in again. What if they were right? That evening, her Ami called her into the kitchen. Mihak, Betty, I've noticed. There's someone in your life, isn't there? Mihak's cheeks burned. Nahi Ami, Aap galat samaj rahi hain. Ami smiled faintly. Don't lie to a mother. I can see it in your eyes. But Betty, think carefully. Men from rich families, they don't always mean what they say. I don't want to see you broken. Her words cut deep, not because they were harsh, but because they carried the weight of truth Mihak feared. Meanwhile, Armin wrestled with his own storm. He sat in his apartment, staring at his phone. His friends' messages still mocked him about the bet. Each word felt like a knife. Seema called. Armin, you have to tell her the truth. Before someone else does. Don't let her find out from the wrong mouth. Armin pressed his forehead into his hands. Seema, if I tell her, she'll hate me. She'll never believe I've changed. Maybe, Seema replied quietly. But if you don't, she'll hate you even more. The next morning, Armin decided to silence his doubts with action. He bought a box of sweets and flowers and drove to her school. When Mihak saw him standing at the gate, her heart skipped. Armin, what are you doing here? I came to see you, he said with a soft smile. And, to ask if you'd let me meet your Ami someday. Her eyes widened. For a moment, the world stopped. Was this real? Did he truly mean it? But just as her lips parted to respond, a sharp voice called from behind. Armin Malik. Both turned. One of the male teachers, who had been eyeing them suspiciously, walked up. He smirked, looking at Mihak. So it's true. The rumors weren't wrong. Mihak madam, no wonder you've been glowing lately. Falling for a rich man, His words dripped with mockery. Students nearby began to whisper. Mihak's face burned with shame. She wanted to disappear. Armin's jaw clenched, fury flashing in his eyes. But before he could speak, Mihak whispered quickly, her voice breaking. Please, just go. Armin froze. Mihak. I said go, she repeated, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Armin stood there, helpless, before finally turning away. As his car drove off, Mihak clutched her books against her chest, her heart in chaos. For the first time, she questioned everything. Was this really love, or was she just living a dream too fragile to last? That night, Mihak couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her mother's words echoing in her ears, the teacher's mocking laughter still ringing. She pressed her face into her pillow, whispering to herself, "Why does my heart want to trust him, but my mind keeps telling me no?" Meanwhile, miles away, Armand sat in his living room, his glass of water untouched. His driver had never seen him so restless. He kept pacing, replaying the moment she had told him to leave. For the first time in years, Armand Malik, who never cared about anyone's opinion, felt helpless because one woman's silence was enough to crush him. The next morning, Mihak tried to go about her usual routine, but her students noticed something different. "Miss, why are you sad today?" a little girl asked innocently. Mihak forced a smile. "I'm not sad, just a little tired." But children can sense the truth. They saw the heaviness in her eyes, even if she denied it. Later, in the staff room, whispers began again. This time, Mihak kept her head low and walked away quickly, afraid her tears would betray her. That evening, as she stepped out of school, she saw him. Arman. Standing by his car, waiting. Her steps faltered. Her heart wanted to run to him, but her pride chained her down. He approached slowly, carefully, as if afraid she might disappear. "Mihak, please. Just give me 5 minutes. That's all I ask." She avoided his eyes. "Arman, people are talking. I can't do this anymore." His voice broke. "Why do you care about them? I'm here. I'm standing in front of you. Doesn't that mean anything?" She swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "I don't know what's real anymore." The pain in her words pierced him deeper than any insult ever could. That night, Arman went to Seima. "She doesn't trust me," Arman muttered, slamming his fist on the table. "And I can't even blame her. I lied to her from the start." Seima sighed. "Then tell her the truth. Tell her about the bet, and how it doesn't matter anymore because you're in love with her." Arman shook his head, his eyes clouded. "If I tell her, she'll leave me forever." Seima leaned forward. "And if you don't, she'll leave you anyway. The truth always finds a way." The next few days turned into torture. Arman still came to wait outside her school, but Mihak avoided him. Sometimes she slipped out from the back gate, sometimes she pretended to be busy. But every time, her heart ached seeing him standing there, waiting, hoping. One evening, as she reached home, her Ami noticed the dried tears on her face. "Mihak, Betty, love is not meant to make you smaller. It's meant to make you braver. If this man truly loves you, he will prove it not just with words, but with actions." Mihak hugged her Ami tightly, silently wishing she could believe in miracles. The miracle came unexpectedly. 2 days later, as Mihak was walking home, it began to rain heavily. She struggled to cover her books, trying not to slip on the muddy road. Suddenly, a car stopped beside her. It was Arman. "Get in," he urged. She shook her head. "No, I'll manage." "Mihak, please. You'll get sick." Her stubbornness faltered when lightning cracked across the sky. She hesitated, then slipped into the car, drenched and shivering. For a few moments, they sat in silence, water dripping from her hair, her clothes clinging to her skin. Arman handed her his jacket quietly. "Why are you doing this?" she finally whispered. "Because," his voice was low, almost breaking, "I can't see you hurt. I can't stand it when you're in pain." She turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "Arman, is this really love? Or am I just a game to you?" His breath caught. He opened his mouth, wanting to shout no. "You're not a game. You're everything." But fear chained his tongue. Fear of the truth he hadn't confessed yet. So he said nothing. And his silence shattered her. When he dropped her home, she stepped out without looking back. Arman gripped the steering wheel, his chest aching. Inside, Mihak collapsed onto her bed, tears streaming. "Why can't I believe him? Why can't he just say the words I need to hear?" For the first time, both of them cried the same night, in different rooms, under the same sky. Two hearts in love. Two souls breaking apart. Because the truth was still buried. And lies, even unspoken ones, have sharp edges. Days passed like slow-burning embers. Mihak stopped answering Arman's calls, stopped looking for him outside the school. But deep inside, she waited. Waited for something, an explanation, a sign, a reason to believe him. And Arman? He couldn't breathe without her. Every night, he tossed on his bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering her name like a prayer. How do I tell you? How do I prove to you that I'm not playing anymore? One afternoon, Mihak walked into her classroom, expecting to see her students waiting with their usual chatter. But instead, she froze. The room was quiet. On every desk lay a single rose, and on the blackboard, written in chalk, were the words, "For the teacher who taught me how to love." Her breath hitched. Slowly, she picked up one of the roses, her heart pounding. The door creaked open, and there he was. Arman Malik. Standing in the doorway, holding a bouquet of fresh lilies, his eyes fixed only on her. "Arman," she whispered, her voice trembling. He walked in slowly, placing the bouquet on her desk. "I don't know how to silence the world, Mihak. But I can try to silence your doubts." Her lips quivered, but before she could speak, he continued, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't care about what people say. I don't care about status, or money, or what anyone thinks. All I care about is you. And if you let me, I'll spend every day proving it." For a moment, silence filled the room. Only the sound of her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Mihak's eyes shimmered. "Arman, why me? Out of everyone in your world, why did you choose me?" He took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving hers. "Because when I'm with you, I'm not Arman Malik, the millionaire. I'm just a man. A man who feels seen, understood, and alive. You're not like anyone else. You don't want my money. You don't want my name. You want me. And I can't lose that. I won't." Her tears spilled. For the first time, she let herself believe his words. Just for a moment, her fears melted. She whispered, "You don't know how much your words mean to me. But love's path is never smooth." That very evening, as Mihak walked home, she saw two students whispering and giggling, holding up their phones. One of them muttered, "Our teacher and that rich guy, everyone's talking about them now." Her stomach twisted. She hurried past them, her cheeks burning. At home, she opened her diary and scribbled furiously. "He says I'm special. He says he'll prove it every day. But the world refuses to let me breathe. Is love strong enough to fight them all? Or am I setting myself up for heartbreak?" Meanwhile, Arman met Seima that night, his voice urgent. "I can't keep lying to her, Seima. Today, I almost said it. Almost told her the truth." Seima frowned. "Arman, listen to me. The longer you wait, the harder it'll be. If she hears it from someone else." "I know." Arman cut him off, frustration breaking through. "But if I tell her, I'll lose her. She'll think everything I've done is fake." Seima placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then you better decide soon. Because secrets don't stay secrets forever." The next day, Arman went to Mihak's house. For the first time, he stood at her doorstep, holding a box of sweets. Her Ami opened the door, surprised. "AAP." Arman bowed respectfully. "Auntie, I'm Arman Malik. I came to meet you." Mihak appeared from behind, stunned. "Arman, what are you doing here?" He smiled softly. "You once said I should meet your mother. I thought, maybe today was the day." Her Ami's eyes softened as she looked between them. She invited him inside. For the first time, Arman sat in Mihak's world, among simple furniture, the smell of chai, and the warmth of a home that money could never buy. The evening passed with polite conversation. Arman spoke with surprising humility, telling Ami about his own childhood, about losing his parents young, about how money had given him everything but never love. Ami listened quietly. Mihak watched him, her heart caught between trust and doubt. When he left, Ami turned to her daughter. "Mihak. I saw honesty in his eyes. Maybe he really is different." Mihak hugged her mother tightly, torn between hope and fear. That night, as Arman drove back, he smiled for the first time in days. But across town, in a smoky cafe, one of his so-called friends smirked as he showed a group of men the original recording of their cruel bet. Let's see what happens when the teacher finds out the truth. The storm was closer than either Mihak or Arman realized. And when it broke, it would shatter everything. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in orange and purple. Mihak sat by her window, diary open, her pen trembling as she wrote. Why does my heart feel so full when he's near, and yet so restless when he's gone? Why does his silence scare me more than any words could? She closed the diary quickly when her Ami called. Mihak, Betty, Arman has changed the air in this house. I see you smiling again. Maybe this is Allah's gift to you. Mihak smiled faintly, but deep inside, a shadow stirred. She wanted to believe her mother's words. She wanted to believe Arman. But trust was fragile, and whispers were everywhere. The next morning, as she entered school, her colleague Miss Ruxana cornered her. So it's true, isn't it? You and that Malik boy. Mihak froze. Ruxana ji, please. But the woman smirked. Men like him don't marry women like us. Be careful before your heart breaks. Mihak's eyes stung, but she stayed quiet, rushing past. Yet the words clung to her like thorns. That evening, Arman waited for her as always. He noticed her pale face the moment she stepped into the car. What happened? He asked gently. Nothing, she whispered. Mihak, his voice was firm now, don't shut me out. If something's hurting you, I want to know. Her lips trembled. Arman, people keep saying things. They think, you're just playing with me. Arman's heart clenched. He wanted to shout the truth, that once, yes, it had started as a cruel bet, but now it was life itself. But fear silenced him. Instead, he reached for her hand. Let them talk. I know what's in my heart. And one day, I'll make the whole world see it too. Her eyes softened, but the unease remained. The next day, fate struck another blow. As she walked home from school, a group of teenage boys passed by, laughing. One of them sneered, Arman Malik's latest charity project. The words sliced her heart. She turned sharply, her face burning with humiliation. Have some shame, she snapped. But their laughter echoed long after they disappeared. That night, she cried silently into her pillow, whispering, Why Allah, why are they so cruel? Why can't they see my heart is pure? Meanwhile, Arman sat in a smoky lounge with Seima, his face buried in his hands. They won't stop talking, Seima. They won't leave her alone. Seima's voice was calm. Then do something about it. Make it official. Propose. Put an end to the rumors. Arman's eyes widened. Marriage. Yes, Seima said firmly. If you love her, if you're serious, then stop wasting time. The longer you delay, the more damage the whispers will do. Arman sat back, his mind spinning. The thought of marrying Mihak wasn't terrifying, it was liberating. For the first time, he imagined a future not with his wealth, but with her. But then his stomach twisted. What about the bet? What if she finds out after I propose? She'll hate me forever. He whispered, Seima, if she ever learns how this started, she'll never forgive me. Seima's gaze hardened. Then tell her before someone else does. Across the city, in a dimly lit cafe, the man holding the video smirked as he replayed it. Arman's voice echoed. I can make any woman fall for me. Even her. The laughter of his friends followed. The man muttered, time to ruin the hero. The following evening, Arman surprised Mihak by bringing her to a quiet bookstore cafe. Soft music played, and the aroma of coffee filled the air. I thought you'd like this place, he said. Her face lit up. It's beautiful. Peaceful. As they sat together, sipping coffee, she asked quietly, Arman, why me? Why did you choose me, when you could have anyone? His throat tightened. He wanted to tell her everything, the ugly beginning, the cruel bet, and how she had changed his entire world. But once again, fear won. Instead, he whispered, because you are the only one who makes me feel human. Everyone else sees the millionaire. You see, me. Her eyes welled with tears. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to silence her doubts. But somewhere deep inside, her heart still whispered, he's hiding something. That night, when Armin dropped her home, a storm brewed in the distance. Clouds gathered, thunder rolled, and rain began to fall. As Mihak entered her house, she didn't notice the envelope that had been slipped under her door. Inside it was a USB drive, waiting to unleash the truth that could destroy everything. The rain fell all night, drumming against the roof of Mihak's small house. She sat by the window, diary open, writing with trembling hands. Every time he looks at me, I want to trust him. Every time he smiles, I forget my fears. But when he goes silent, I feel a storm waiting to break. Am I strong enough to face it? She didn't notice the envelope lying under the sofa, carried in by the wind when she shut the door. The next morning, she found it while sweeping. A plain envelope, her name scribbled in messy handwriting. Frowning, she tore it open. Inside was a USB drive and a note. See the truth before it's too late. Her heart skipped. Hands trembling, she tucked it into her bag. All day at school, she felt distracted, the weight of the small drive burning like fire in her purse. That evening, Armin waited outside, his eyes lighting up the moment he saw her. Mihak, he said warmly, I've been thinking, there's something important I want to talk to you about. She forced a smile, her heart heavy. Me too. They drove in silence. She clutched her bag tightly, debating whether to ask him about the USB, whether to demand answers. But when he stopped the car by the seaside and stepped out with her, the sight of waves crashing under the sunset softened her heart. Armin took a deep breath. Mihak, when I'm with you, I feel alive in a way I never have. I can't keep pretending anymore. Her pulse raced. Was this it? Was he about to confess everything? But instead, he looked deep into her eyes and said, I want to marry you. For a moment, the world stopped. Mihak's lips parted, her breath caught. Her eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but of happiness. Armin, do you mean that? She whispered. With all my heart, he said firmly. I want to stand in front of the world and call you mine. Forever. Her heart soared. For the first time, she believed. Maybe the whispers were wrong. Maybe love really could conquer everything. But fate was cruel. That night, when she returned home, her Ami noticed her flushed face. Mihak, what happened? She hugged her mother tightly, crying and laughing at once. Ami, he wants to marry me. Ami's eyes softened with relief. Then perhaps he truly is the man I prayed for. They sat together, planning what life could be like. For a few hours, Mihak allowed herself to dream freely. Later, when everyone was asleep, she remembered the envelope. Her hands shook as she plugged the USB into her old laptop. The screen lit up with a video file. She clicked it. And there he was. Armin Malik. Laughing with his friends in a loud, glittering lounge. His voice echoed through the speakers. I can make any woman fall for me. Even her. Give me a month, and she'll be in love. You'll see. The sound of his friends' laughter followed. Mihak's heart stopped. Her breath came in short, painful gasps. The roses, the car rides, the promises, the proposal, suddenly it all blurred, all shattered. Was it all a bet? She pressed her hands against her mouth, tears pouring uncontrollably. Why, Allah, what have I done? The next day, Armin arrived early, excited, ready to take her to meet his sister and talk about their future. But when Mihak stepped out of her house, her face was pale, her eyes swollen. She didn't look at him. Mihak, what happened? Why are you? Don't, she cut him off sharply. Her voice was cold, trembling with fury and pain. Armin froze. Mihak, talk to me. What's wrong? She turned her tear-streaked face toward him. Tell me, Armin. When you laughed with your friends, when you made that bet, did you ever think what would happen when I found out? Armin's heart dropped. His blood ran cold. Mihak. Don't lie, she cried, her voice breaking. I saw it. I saw the video. Everything was just a game to you, wasn't it? Armin's throat burned. He stepped closer. Mihak, yes, It started that way. But it's not like that anymore. Please, you have to believe me. Her tears flowed harder. How can I believe you? From the very beginning, you lied. You played with my heart. You made me a joke to the world. The silence between them was heavier than any storm. Arman reached out desperately. Mihak, I swear to you, I love you. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. You are everything to me. She stepped back, shaking her head violently. No, Arman. You took my biggest fear and turned it into reality. You made me believe I was worth something, just to prove a bet. I can't do this. Her words cut him deeper than any knife. He stood frozen as she walked away, her figure dissolving into the rain. For the first time, the great Arman Malik fell to his knees on the roadside, his tears mixing with the storm. Mihak, he whispered, his voice breaking. I've lost you. The morning after the storm, Mihak sat silently at the breakfast table. Her Ami noticed the dark circles under her eyes. Mihak, Betty, did you even sleep? She shook her head, pushing her food around without eating. Did something happen between you and Arman? Her mother pressed gently. Tears threatened again, but she swallowed them back. Ami, he's not who I thought he was. Everything was a lie. Ami's face fell. What do you mean? Mihak stood up abruptly, her voice trembling. Please, Ami, don't ask. Just don't. Meanwhile, Arman hadn't slept either. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes wrinkled. He had replayed their confrontation 100 times, each word stabbing his heart. Seima found him sitting on the office floor, head in his hands. Arman, you have to fight for her, Seima urged. Don't let this end here. Arman's voice was hoarse. I destroyed her trust, Seima. She looked at me like I was a monster. How do I come back from that? Seima gripped his shoulder. By telling her the truth yourself. Every detail. No more secrets. That evening, Arman stood outside Mihak's school, waiting like always. When she saw him, her steps faltered. Her instinct was to turn away, but he rushed forward. Mihak, please, just listen to me once. She froze, her students watching curiously. The humiliation burned her cheeks. Not here, Arman. Please, don't create a scene, she whispered, her voice sharp with pain. But Arman didn't move. I won't leave until you give me a chance to explain. She sighed heavily, finally agreeing to sit with him in the car. Inside, silence suffocated them. Finally, Arman spoke, his voice trembling. Yes, it started as a bet. I was arrogant, foolish, blinded by pride. But Mihak, the moment I saw your strength, your kindness, everything changed. I fell in love with you. Truly. Her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Do you even hear yourself, Arman? You expect me to separate your lies from your truth? How can I? Because, he whispered, tears in his eyes, a lie doesn't bring a man to his knees. A game doesn't make him want to marry you. A bet doesn't break him when you walk away. Only love can do that. Her chest heaved with sobs she tried to suppress. Love, Arman. Love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't turn someone into a joke in front of the world. She turned to leave, but he caught her wrist gently. Mihak, if I lose you, I lose everything. Please, give me one chance to prove it. Her voice cracked. Arman, you already had your chance. It was the first day you walked into my life. And you destroyed it before it even began. She pulled her hand free and walked away again, leaving him broken in the driver's seat. Days turned into a week. Arman kept trying, sending flowers, messages, waiting outside her house, begging her friends for help. But Mihak stayed silent. She avoided him in every way, burying herself in teaching, in caring for her Ami, in pretending her heart hadn't been torn apart. Yet at night, when she lay alone in bed, she clutched her pillow tightly and whispered his name through her tears. Arman, why couldn't you just be honest with me? Arman, too, changed. The once confident millionaire now looked like a ghost of himself. His board members whispered about his distracted state, his neglected business. One evening, he stood outside her house again, rain pouring as it had the night of their fight. When Mihak finally stepped out, he fell to his knees on the wet road. "Mihak, please." His voice cracked, desperate. "I'll wait forever if I have to, but don't shut me out completely. Don't let this end with hatred in your heart." Her tears mingled with the rain. She wanted to run to him, to forgive, to believe again. But the wound was too deep. "Arman, go home," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, just let me be." And with that, she turned and closed the gate, leaving him kneeling in the storm. Inside, she collapsed against the door, sobbing uncontrollably. Outside, Arman remained on his knees until the rain washed everything away, except his love for her. A week passed since the night Arman knelt in the rain. For Mihak, each day felt heavier than the last. At school, whispers had grown louder. Some teachers looked at her with pity, others with judgment. Miss Ruxana smirked one afternoon. "So, he finally got bored, didn't he? I told you, Mihak, men like Arman don't stay. They play their games and leave." Mihak bit her lip hard, holding back tears. She wanted to scream that it wasn't like that Arman still came every day, that he was begging her forgiveness. But her pride kept her silent. At home, matters grew worse. Her maternal uncle, Khalid, visited with his wife one evening. "Mihak," he said sternly, "people in the neighborhood are talking. They say you've been meeting Arman Malik secretly, going out with him, letting him fool you. Do you know what this does to our family's reputation?" Her Ami tried to intervene. "It's not what people make it out to be." But Khalid cut her off sharply. "Enough, Apa. This girl has already brought shame. What if no one marries her now? What if people call her characterless?" Mihak sat quietly, her tears falling silently onto her dupatta. Her aunt added cruelly, "Better end this nonsense before it destroys everything." That same night, Mihak sat with her mother. "Ami," she whispered, her voice breaking, "why does love feel like punishment? I didn't ask for this. I only wanted a little respect, a little happiness." Her Ami hugged her tightly. "Betty, your heart is pure. Don't let the world's poison take that away from you." But Mihak cried herself to sleep, her pillow wet with tears. On the other side of the city, Arman sat in his darkened room, staring at Mihak's picture on his phone. His business meetings went unattended, his friends couldn't reach him. Seima stormed in. "Arman, you can't go on like this. You're ruining yourself." Arman's voice was hollow. "What is wealth without her? What's the point of my empire when the only person I want in it won't even look at me?" Seima sighed, then leaned closer. "Then show her, Arman. Show her you've changed. Not with flowers or words. With sacrifice. With proof the world can't deny." Arman's eyes flickered with determination for the first time in days. 2 days later, news spread like wildfire. Arman Malik donates half his fortune to orphanages and schools for underprivileged children. Reporters swarmed. "Mr. Malik, why such a drastic step?" He answered simply, "Because life has taught me that love and respect are worth more than money. I want to give back to those who never had a chance, like I once didn't." When Mihak read the headlines, her hands trembled. Her students buzzed with excitement, holding up newspapers. "Miss, look. Sir Arman is a hero." Her heart swelled with conflicting emotions. Was this just another show? Or was it truly for her, for love? That evening, as she walked home, she found Arman waiting by the corner, not in his luxury car, but standing quietly with an umbrella in hand. "Mihak," he said softly, his eyes weary but gentle. "I didn't come to force you. I only came to tell you, everything I'm doing because you taught me what matters. You opened my eyes." Her lips trembled, her chest tightening. She wanted to shout at him, to accuse him, but the sincerity in his eyes stopped her. Still, her pride and pain wouldn't let her bend. "Arman," she whispered, tears filling her eyes, "sacrifices can't erase betrayal. You gave the world your money, but you stole my trust. And without trust, what is love?" He stood frozen, the umbrella shaking in his hand. She turned away, leaving him in silence once again. That night, Mihak cried harder than ever. She pressed her diary to her chest, whispering, "Why does my heart still beat for him? Why can't I let go, even when I should?" Across the city, Armand sat on his balcony under the stars, whispering her name like a prayer. "Mihak, even if you never forgive me, I'll keep proving my love until my last breath." The city buzzed with gossip. Some praised Armand's donation, calling him generous and noble. Others whispered that it was only a publicity stunt to cover some hidden scandal. But Mihak. She stayed silent. Her heart knew it was real, yet her pride wouldn't let her admit it. One afternoon, while she corrected papers in the staff room, Miss Ruxana sneered, "See, Mihak? He gave away his money because he knew he couldn't buy you. Don't be fooled by these rich men's tricks." Mihak clenched her jaw, refusing to respond. But inside, her heart screamed. "Why does everyone have to talk? Why can't they understand what I'm going through?" She excused herself, tears burning her eyes. That same evening, Armand sat in his office, staring at files he could barely read. Ever since his donation, his board members were restless. Competitors smelled blood. And one man in particular, a rival who had always envied him, was planning his downfall. Armand's secretary rushed in. "Sir, there's chaos in the stock market. Your company's shares are falling. Investors are pulling out." Armand stood frozen. But instead of fear for his empire, his first thought was of Mihak. If I lose everything, will she still believe I only ever wanted her? Hours later, while driving back from the office, Armand's car was suddenly intercepted by a speeding truck. His driver swerved, the tires screeched, and in seconds the car crashed violently against a divider. The world went dark. The news broke the next morning. Business tycoon Armand Malik critically injured in road accident. Mihak's heart stopped as she read the headline. Her hands shook, the newspaper slipping from her fingers. Her Ami rushed over. "Mihak. What happened?" Her voice cracked. "Ami, it's Armand. He's in the hospital." For the first time since their fight, her pain was replaced by fear. Fear of losing him forever. Without thinking, she rushed to the hospital. The halls were filled with reporters, flashing cameras, murmurs of his downfall. When she finally reached the ICU, she saw him through the glass, lying pale and still, bandages around his head, machines keeping him alive. Her knees weakened. She pressed her hand against the glass, whispering, "Why, Allah, please don't take him. Not like this." Seima appeared beside her. His face was grave, but his eyes softened when he saw her tears. "He's been calling your name even in unconsciousness," Seima said quietly. "Mihak, he loves you. More than his life, more than his wealth. That's the truth." Her tears flowed harder. "But Seima, how do I forgive what he did to me?" "By looking into his eyes when he wakes up," Seima said gently. "And realizing what matters more, his mistake or your love." Hours felt like days. Mihak sat outside the ICU, praying, trembling, refusing to leave. Her Ami eventually came and sat beside her, holding her hand. "Betty," she whispered, "sometimes Allah breaks us only to show us how much we truly feel. Don't let anger bury your love." Finally, late into the night, the doctor came out. "He's stable now. You may see him, but only for a few minutes." Mihak's heart raced as she stepped into the room. There he was, weak and fragile, tubes around him, eyes half closed. "Mihak," his voice was a faint whisper. She rushed to his side, tears pouring. "I'm here, Armand. I'm here." He smiled faintly, lifting a trembling hand to hers. "I thought I'd lost you forever." Her heart broke all over again. She pressed his hand to her cheek. "Armand, don't you dare leave me." His eyes fluttered. "Even if I die, my love won't." Her sobs shook the room. For the first time since the betrayal, she held his hand and didn't let go. Her heart still bled with hurt, but in that moment, the thought of losing him was far worse than the pain of his lies. As the machines beeped steadily, she whispered through her tears, "Armand, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I know I can't live without you." The days after the accident blurred together. Mihak spent every evening at the hospital, sitting quietly by Armand's bedside. Sometimes he was awake, weak but smiling faintly when he saw her. Sometimes he was asleep, his chest rising and falling in fragile rhythm with the beeping machines. Each time she looked at him, her heart ached. How can I love him this much and still feel so broken inside? One evening, as she adjusted the blanket over him, his voice cracked softly. Mihak, you should rest. You don't have to stay here for me. She shook her head, her eyes glistening. Don't say that. I'll stay as long as it takes. His lips curved in a weak smile. Even after everything I did to you. Her breath caught. She looked away, whispering, That's the problem, Arman. I can't stop caring, no matter how much you hurt me. When she returned home that night, her uncle Khalid was waiting in the living room. Where have you been? He demanded. Mihak froze. At the hospital. Khalid's voice grew sharp. Still. Haven't you caused enough disgrace? Visiting him daily like a shameless woman, don't you care what people say? Her Ami tried to defend her, but Khalid raised his hand angrily. Apa, silence. This girl is ruining everything. If she doesn't end this madness, don't expect us to stand by her. Mihak's eyes filled with tears, but she stood her ground. If caring for someone in pain is madness, then yes, I am mad. But I won't leave him alone. Her aunt scoffed. Then don't come crying when the world spits on you. Mihak ran to her room, collapsing against her pillow, sobbing until she couldn't breathe. At the hospital, Arman overheard two nurses whispering. Poor girl, she sits here every day. Doesn't she know he played with her? Still, look at her. That's real love. Arman shut his eyes in pain. I've ruined her life. Even when she chooses me, the world punishes her for it. That night, he asked Seima quietly, what if loving me only destroys her? Should I let her go? Seima gripped his shoulder firmly. Arman, don't even think about it. You made mistakes, yes. But if you leave now, you'll only prove everyone right. Show her, and the world, that your love is stronger than their hate. As days passed, Arman's health slowly improved. He started walking with support, his voice regained strength. But his eyes never left Mihak when she was near. One evening, when they were alone, he said softly, Mihak, I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I swear, I'll spend my whole life earning it if you'll let me. She stared at him, torn. You don't understand, Arman. It's not just about you and me anymore. My family, society, they all look at me differently now. I don't know if I can fight them all. His heart broke at her words. Then let me fight for you. Her tears spilled over. But what if love isn't enough? He reached for her hand, pressing it gently to his lips. It has to be. Because it's all I have left. But outside that fragile hospital room, forces were moving against them. Her uncle had already begun searching for proposals, determined to marry Mihak off quickly and erase the stain of her love for Arman. And Arman's rivals were circling like vultures, waiting to strike when he was weakest. The storm wasn't over. It was only gathering. That night, as Mihak sat by Arman's side, watching him drift into sleep, she whispered into the silence. Ya Allah, give me the strength to choose what's right, even if it breaks me again. The morning sun brought no peace to Mihak's home. Her uncle Khalid sat stiffly in the living room, a young man and his parents beside him. Mihak, Khalid announced coldly, this is Rashid. He's a respectable man, from a good family. They have agreed to consider you. Mihak froze in the doorway, her heart racing. Rashid gave a polite nod, but his eyes were filled with disinterest, like he was here for duty, not love. Her Ami whispered, panicked, Bye, this is too sudden. But Khalid snapped, Enough. This girl's foolishness has already stained our reputation. We must settle her future before more disgrace comes. Mihak's lips trembled. Chacha, please. I don't want this. Khalid's voice thundered, Your wants mean nothing now. This family's honor is at stake. Her aunt added sharply, You think that Millionaire will marry you? Wake up, Mihak. He used you and left you. Stop waiting for a dream. Mihak's chest tightened, but she whispered firmly, He didn't leave me. He's fighting for me. And I I can't marry anyone else. Her uncle's face darkened. Enough of this madness. That evening, at the hospital, Arman sensed her distress. What happened? He asked gently, noticing her pale face. Mihak hesitated, then broke down. They want me to marry someone else. They're forcing me, Arman. Arman's fists clenched, his jaw tight. Over my dead body. They can't take you away from me. Her tears flowed. But what if I can't stop them? What if I'm too weak? He cupped her face gently, his eyes burning with determination. Then I'll stop them. I don't care about my injuries, about the world, about anything. You are mine, Mihak. Not as a prize, not as a bet, but as my life. Her heart ached at his words. She wanted to believe him, to collapse into his arms. But the shadows of betrayal still haunted her. The next day, Khalid returned with Rashid's family to finalize the proposal. The small house filled with tension, relatives murmuring, papers being discussed as if Mihak herself didn't matter. Finally, Khalid called out, Mihak, come and meet your future husband. Mihak's hands shook as she stepped forward. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but her lips remained sealed. Her Ami whispered, say no, Betty. Speak up. But before Mihak could, a loud commotion erupted outside. The door swung open. And there he was. Arman Malik. Weak from his injuries, walking with a cane, his face pale but his eyes blazing with fire. Seima supported him, but Arman stood tall, his voice echoing in the small room. Stop this farce. Everyone turned in shock. Khalid's face burned with rage. How dare you enter this house? Arman's gaze locked on Mihak, ignoring everyone else. Because she belongs with me. And I will not let anyone force her into something she doesn't want. Gasps filled the room. Rashid's family looked uncomfortable, whispering among themselves. Khalid roared, you shameless man. You disgraced her first, and now you dare. Arman cut him off, his voice steady but fierce. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I hurt her. But I love her with everything I am. I gave up my wealth, my pride, my life, just for her. Can you say the same for this proposal you've brought? Mihak's chest heaved, her tears falling silently. Her heart pounded in her ears as Arman turned toward her. Mihak, he said, his voice breaking, I can't promise I'll never make mistakes again. But I promise that my love will never fail you. Choose me, not for the world, not for them, but for yourself. The room went silent. Her uncle sneered, don't be fooled again, Mihak. He's a liar. This is your last chance to protect your dignity. Her Ami, tears in her eyes, whispered, Betty, your heart already knows the truth. All eyes fell on her. Mihak stood frozen between two worlds, her family's honor, society's judgment, and the love that had once betrayed her but still burned inside her soul. Her lips trembled as she whispered, Arman. The room was silent, so silent that even the ticking clock on the wall felt like a drum. Everyone stared at Mihak, waiting for her decision. Her heart raced. Her uncle's glare pierced her. Rashid's family shifted uncomfortably. Arman's eyes, weak but burning with love, were fixed only on her. She whispered again, her voice trembling, Arman. Her uncle barked, say it clearly. Enough of this shameful drama. Mihak took a deep breath, her tears falling freely now. Her voice shook, but her words were firm. I can't marry Rashid. I can't marry anyone else. Because no matter how much I tried to hate him, I still love Arman. Gasps filled the room. Rashid's mother stood angrily, muttering, this girl is shameless. They stormed out with Rashid trailing silently behind. Khalid turned red with rage. You've destroyed us. You've disgraced this family completely. But Mihak stood straighter, her eyes fierce with tears. No, Chacha. I've only spoken my truth. You think love is shameful? Then so be it. But I won't sacrifice my heart for your false honor. Arman's legs trembled, but he stepped closer with Seima's support. He looked at Khalid directly. You can insult me, you can destroy my wealth, my reputation, my body. But you cannot erase what's between me and her. Because this, he pointed to his heart, voice breaking, this belongs to her. Always has. Always will. Khalid sneered. Big words. But will you marry her right now, in front of everyone? Do you have the courage? The challenge hung in the air like fire. Arman didn't hesitate. Yes. The room shook with shock. Mihak's Ami gasped, her hands covering her mouth. Seima looked between them, stunned but hopeful. Mihak herself froze, her breath caught in her chest. Arman, what are you saying? Arman turned to her, his eyes fierce but tender. I'm saying I don't want to wait anymore, Mihak. Life already showed us how short it can be. I want to make you mine, truly, with respect, not as part of a bet, not as part of society's gossip. Just mine. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. Her heart screamed yes, but fear still clung to her. Arman, what if I can't forgive you completely? What if the past still hurts us? He stepped closer, taking her trembling hands in his. Then let me spend every day proving I deserve you. Let me heal your pain, even if it takes a lifetime. Her lips quivered. She searched his eyes, desperate for the truth. And in that moment, she saw it. No games, no lies, no pride. Only love, raw, broken, but real. Khalid exploded. Over my dead body. This marriage will not happen. Arman's voice rose, firm as steel. Then so be it. I'll fight the whole world if I must. But I will not let go of her. Mihak, shaking, finally found her strength. She turned to her uncle, her voice trembling but steady. You can control my house, my reputation, but not my heart. My heart belongs to Arman. And I choose him. Her uncle stood speechless, his face twisted with rage. Her Ami rushed forward, holding Mihak tight, tears falling from her eyes. Allah bless you, Betty. You followed your heart. May he protect you both. In that moment, Arman reached out, and Mihak finally placed her hand in his, fully, openly, in front of everyone. It was no longer a secret love, no longer fragile whispers. It was a choice. Bold. Defiant. Real. The entire room knew, nothing would ever be the same again. For the first time, Mihak and Arman's love was out in the open. No more secrets, no more whispers. The world had seen her stand by him, hand in hand. But freedom brought its own chains. New moon symbol the society's backlash. Within days, gossip spread like wildfire. Newspapers printed headlines. Millionaire who lost fortune to marry obese woman. Is it love or madness? Arman Malik, from tycoon to tragic lover. Neighbors whispered when Mihak walked to school. Colleagues snickered behind her back. This is the girl. The one he ruined himself for. Even innocent children repeated their parents' words. One student giggled during class, Miss, when will you marry your millionaire Majnu? The laughter stung, but Mihak kept her head high. Yet at night, she cried silently into her pillow, wondering if love could truly bear the weight of the world. New moon symbol the family rift. At home, Khalid declared, if you marry that man, Mihak, you are no longer part of this family. Her Ami clutched her hands, torn between love for her daughter and fear of her brother. Betty, if you go with him, I will lose you too. Mihak sobbed. Ami, I need you with me. I can't do this alone. Ami kissed her forehead, her tears wetting Mihak's skin. Then I will bear the world's anger with you. Because if you choose him, I choose you. For the first time, Mihak felt her mother stand beside her fully. It gave her courage. New moon symbol the rival's move. Meanwhile, in the corporate world, Arman's enemies sharpened their knives. One man in particular, Mr. Gibran, his longtime rival, smiled coldly. He thinks love will save him? No. I'll crush whatever he has left. Gibran spread rumors of fraud, bribed officials, and filed cases against Arman's company. Slowly, Arman's last standing projects began to collapse. Seima warned him, Arman, if this continues, you'll lose even your house. Arman shrugged, his eyes fixed on Mihak's photo in his phone. Then let it all burn. As long as she's with me, I'll rebuild from nothing. New moon symbol the engagement plan. One evening, under the quiet glow of hospital lights, Arman finally asked, Mihak, will you let me put a ring on your finger? Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Tonight. Her heart raced. Arman, we can't rush. Everything is already against us. He took her hands, his voice breaking. That's why we must. Before the world finds another way to tear us apart. Mihak searched his eyes and saw the desperation there. A man afraid of losing her again. She nodded softly. Yes. New moon symbol the twist of fate. Preparations began quietly. Seema arranged a simple engagement ceremony in the hospital's small prayer room, just a few close people, no extravagance, no spotlight. But as the evening approached, something unexpected happened. Mihak's uncle Khalid stormed into their house with police officers. This man deceived my niece, ruined our honor, and now wants to trap her in marriage. Arrest him. Mihak froze, her heart pounding. Chacha, stop. This isn't the way. Arman stepped forward, calm but firm. You want me jailed? Fine. But even behind bars, my heart will belong to her. Nothing you do can change that. The officers hesitated, unsure. Mihak clutched Arman's arm, terrified. Khalid smirked. Let's see if your love survives when society buries you alive. That night, instead of exchanging rings, Arman sat in a cold police cell, while Mihak wept outside, her palms pressed against the bars. Arman, she cried, her voice breaking, don't give up. Please, don't let this be the end. He reached for her hand through the iron bars, his eyes glistening. I'll never give up, Mihak. But you must promise me, no matter what happens, don't let them force you away from me. She nodded through her tears. Even if the world stands against us, I'll stand with you. Their fingers locked between the cold metal. Two hearts, caged by fate, but still beating as one. The police station was dim, its walls smelling of rust and despair. Arman sat behind the iron bars, his body weak but his eyes burning with quiet strength. Outside, Mihak refused to leave. For 2 nights, she waited on the cold bench, ignoring her uncle's threats, society's taunts, and even her own exhaustion. Seema brought food, but she hardly touched it. Her Ami sat by her side, whispering prayers under her breath. Betty, Ami said softly, your patience will be rewarded. Allah is watching. Mihak's tears spilled. Ami, I don't care about the world anymore. I just want him safe. I just want him free. New moon symbol the rival's last strike. Meanwhile, Gibran, Arman's rival, worked tirelessly to crush him. He bribed witnesses, spread lies, and fueled Khalid's anger. This man must be finished, Gibran sneered. If he has her love, he must lose everything else. But greed is a dangerous weapon. One of Gibran's own men, disgusted with his cruelty, leaked documents proving Gibran's fraud schemes. Within days, the police received evidence that the case against Arman was fabricated. The tides began to turn. New moon symbol the release. On the 3rd morning, an officer approached Mihak. Your man is free. Charges dismissed. Mihak's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming as the cell door creaked open. Arman stepped out, limping slightly, his face pale but glowing with relief. She ran to him, throwing her arms around him. For the first time in weeks, she felt his heartbeat against hers without barriers. He whispered, voice choked, I told you, they can cage me, but never my love. Her sobs shook his chest. And I told you, I'd never let them take me away. New moon symbol the final defiance. When they returned home, Khalid was waiting, fury etched on his face. You still choose him? Even after all this humiliation, he spat. Mihak held Arman's hand firmly. Her voice, trembling but unshakable, filled the room. Yes, I choose him. Not because he's rich, not because of what he's lost or gained. I choose him because he's mine. My love. My pain. My life. Her Ami stood beside her, nodding with tears. And I stand with my daughter. No one can separate what Allah has joined. Khalid's rage boiled, but he found no more words. Society's gossip no longer mattered. Their love had endured fire, and survived. New moon symbol the wedding. A week later, in a small, humble mosque, surrounded by only a few loyal friends and her mother, Mihak and Arman finally said Kubul High. No grand hall, no flashing lights, no million-dollar celebrations. Just two hands trembling as they held each other, two hearts that had walked through betrayal, loss, and storms, finally standing as one. As Arman placed the ring on her finger, he whispered, "This time, not as a bet, but as my forever." Mihak's eyes glistened. "And this time, not with doubt, but with all of me." New moon symbol epilogue, a moral for the heart. Months later, they lived in a modest home. Arman, no longer a millionaire, worked to rebuild from scratch. Mihak continued teaching, her students respecting her more than ever for her courage. Their life wasn't easy. Money was tight. Society still whispered. But every night, when Mihak rested her head on Arman's chest, she knew peace. Because love, true love, wasn't about luxury or perfection. It was about choosing each other again and again, even when the world stood against them. And whenever people asked why she gave up comfort for a man who once broke her heart, Mihak would smile softly and say, "Because he lost everything, but never let go of me. And that is worth more than all the wealth in the world." Broken Heart, the millionaire's bet ended not with riches, not with